Good evening, Final Fantasy Randomizer fans. Welcome to the Final Fantasy Randomizer Weekly Race Monday edition. This is our second one after the spring tournament, so we're glad you tuned in tonight. Tonight we have the Duck Derby Week 2 flag set, an upcoming tournament, and we want to show off a little bit of what's in store. My name is Jat2980, and I'm joined here in the booth by Groggy Dog. How you doing tonight, Grog?
I'm doing fantastic, thanks so much. Now, tonight we are running the second week of the Duckling Derby flags, and we have a fun one. If you are not familiar with the many, many ways in which the randomizer can totally change the base game, you are in for a treat. We have Treasure Hunt tonight. Now, Treasure Hunt is going to change up one of the most important parts of the game. We no longer need 4 orbs to get to the Temple of Fiends. Instead, we are on a treasure hunt. We're going to be looking for 28 shards, and you can find those by defeating fiends and by finding them in chests around the world. And the runners are off, so they are going to start that hunt right now. A lot of other standard stuff as we kind of get ready, but Mass Immune, Defense Power Gauntlet on the incentivized item list, 2 loose, Free Bridge and Canal. Gonna make it pretty good. We're capping out bosses clamped at 100%, going up to max 180. So we'll see how our runners handle that.
Yeah, so if you were, watching the spring tournament or that you've seen a bunch of other races, there's not going to be anything too crazy here, no entrance floor shuffle or anything along those lines, but these flags are specifically designed to bring in new runners, to allow them to kind of learn what the randomizer has in store for them. So the 2 things that we're highlighting here are specifically the Shard Hunt, as well as Blurst Weapons, or random weapon and armor bonuses. Do you want to quickly touch on what that is, Groggy Dog, as we see it here?
Absolutely, yeah. So as you see the runners going through the weapon and armor shops, you'll notice there are going to be numbers by all the weapons and armor, either a positive or a negative number. Those are going to alter the weapon and armor stats. So you might have, let's say, a silver 2 and a chain 5. Normally, the silver bracelet and the chain armor would be worth the same amount. But if you got 2 on the silver and 5 on the chain is going to be much better. It's usually worth about 2 points more per number on both the weapon and the armor. And then same could be true for going negative. So, a negative 5 gold bracelet may not want, depending on what else you can find. And we see some magic so far. I think for a lot of the duck runners that we have, and we have 2 duck runners here on stream right now, this is one of those kind of frustrating situations. You don't have just a whole lot by way of tackling Garland. Bane is going to do it for you, but if you're inexperienced with magic or inexperienced with these kind of situations, that can throw you off just a little bit. There's not a whole lot to work with, and if you perhaps don't have good luck or only have 1 mage, it could be a frustrating situation.
Yeah, for sure. I think DVS is a duck, or what we call a new player in a very, very friendly sense of the word. But he's been playing a lot of Seed, so he's aware of the fact that Bane can definitely get you through Garland in the early game. But running into a very unfortunate creep spell there, that looked like stone poison to me.
Worth mentioning, Ale did find the loose ruby in Temple of Fiends. We're going to see a bunch of people checking those chests, getting that. So that's 1 loose already down. Nice and generous Seed for our owners tonight.
Yeah, and unlike the spring tournament, we also do have a free canal, not a loose canal. So there are 2 loose overall, so there's only going to be 1 more item in a non-incentive location.
Yeah, absolutely. And Will Bloodworth going to show us Nuke at level 2, along with Life 2 and Invis 2, so that level 1 armor gives way to some really nice stuff. The King is going to give us the Mass Immune -5, Princess Sarah's going to give us the Cube, so again, that -5 come into play. Now, the Mass Immune is still extremely good, especially for this early in the game, but you're going to be looking for maybe like a Sun Sword, or if you've got the Fighter, an X-Cal, maybe to bump you above that in a way that you wouldn't in the vanilla game. But yeah, luckily, level 2 magic is much more generous. Runners who kind of dove straight there are going to be real happy with that.
Yeah, I mean, to touch a little bit more on just how effective the Blessed or Cursed are, the Masa -5 is still going to basically be one of, if not, it's not the best, but one of the best swords throughout the entire game. Where it starts to show its weakness is because of the decreased crit rate against the last 2, maybe 3 bosses.
Yeah.
So that's where you're going to really see the Masa -5 suffer a little bit in comparison to its vanilla state, but for the rest of the seed, that's a fantastic early game weapon. Fantastic mid-game weapon. It's going to help them get through bosses, and if, Nuke doesn't do the trick, which is unlikely, the Masa certainly will. So, a little bit of a, little bit more difficult start than we sometimes see, but nothing too crazy. And Ale Markin finds the ship loose in Matoya's cave, so this is basically a no-lose seed, eh, Groggy Dog?
Yeah, that's surprisingly generous for the randomizer. Getting a mode of transportation, and the Ruby, too. The Ruby's going to open up quite a bit, at least in terms of getting to Sarda early. Now, the Titan's Trove is also incentivized, just like it was in the spring tournament. So that ship, plus the free canal, means the Ale is going to be able to go pretty quick. And check out that Ruby once he's done with that. The good news is that since the crystal is coming from Provoca, from Bicky and the Pirates, all of our runners are almost certainly going to be checking that, and so I have to imagine that we are up for a pretty quick seed, all things considered. This is good. Now, one thing you're going to see is you might see like Shard, or I think I'm seeing it Slice tonight. Whenever you see that pop up from random chests, that's that treasure hunt that we're looking for. We need 28 pieces. Both Lich and Carry, if you kill them, you get 2. If you kill Kraken or Tiamat, you get 4. So you get a total of 12 from the Fiends, and then you get the other 16 from random chests throughout the world. So it definitely incentivizes parties that need more armor. I think Fighter is a perfectly fine thing to run in Shard Hunt, even if you're feeling good about Black Belt or Thief, or whatever it is, just because you're going to be opening a lot of chests as it is.
Yeah, no, for sure. I think Shard Hunt, of all the flags, is one that kind of... When you're looking at choosing between a Black Belt and a Fighter, there's a lot of different factors that enter into the decisions. But if you're on a no-lose seed with high experience, Black Belt kind of edges out the Fighter in that case. In low experience gains and lots of box openings, so many loose items, or Shard Hunt definitely let Fighters shine a little bit more. But, experienced runners will be able to run either in both situations. So... Yeah. We'll have to see who ends up being the advantage. Blessed Curse also makes a big difference. It's generally speaking a buff to a weapon-wielding class like the Fighter. However, if, everything is negative, of course, that does make the Black Belt a slightly preferable choice.
Yeah, absolutely. And the Mass Immune is going to be a really nice choice for people who want to get some grind out early, plus that low-level nuke. All the spike tiles are shuffled, so all our runners need is to find a decently productive spike tile somewhere in the game, and certainly with a very accessible loose ship, there are going to be a lot of options for them with that in that regard. So, I'm seeing a number of Black Belts on stream, and I think they're probably feeling pretty good about that choice right now. It's just going to be a matter of when do they find that spike tile and how dangerous is it. But I've got to imagine there's going to be something for them.
So what exactly do you mean by a spike tile? As that term doesn't necessarily, not exactly clear.
Absolutely. So a spike tile, there are a number of tiles in the game where when you step on them, there are a forced encounter. There's the RNG table, which determines when you're walking on the overworld or in a dungeon, when you get a random encounter. But there are a number of spots all around the world, different dungeons, where if you step on it, you're going to get an encounter. Now, those are specific encounters in the game, and the randomizer can shuffle those encounters to be different things. And that flag is turned on. Those encounters are shuffled. So maybe you go in, let's say you go, in the Northwest Castle. You get the key. There are a few chests hidden away. You can step on some spike tiles. Maybe one day you get unlucky. It's some Sahags. It's some, just really unnecessary enemies that are going to give you no experience, no money. You just kind of bypass it. But maybe it's something like the third eye grind that's going to give you a lot of easy enemies with a lot of high experience, or maybe some dragons, whatever you want. There are a number of possibilities. Maybe it's the Agama grind, the very traditional sort of grind for the Black Belt and the Volcano, where it would normally be. And so part of the shuffled spike tiles is just kind of learning, like, okay, what do I need to look for? What are my options? And what can I reasonably take to get my Black Belt or my Fighter, whatever I'm trying to level, quickly up to a higher level?
Yeah, so if you played the vanilla game and you're like, oh, Black Belts, they're going to head to Volcano right away, not necessarily the case. Although, if they do find that Agama tile, as you said, it could be anywhere, but if they do find it, it's likely they'll still take a few levels on it. So our two kind of non-duck runners here on the top, Will Bloodworth in the top left, known well for his thieves, and Ale Markin, actually, who's been helping train our newest runners up. Both of them leaving the Inner Sea around the same time, churning in that ruby, and also going to go talk to Sarda. So we have the flag called Early Sarda on, so you do not have to go down and kill the vampire in order to get it, and it looks like Sarda's got a vanilla rod for us here.
Yeah, we're seeing some pretty generous turn-ins so far. Now, obviously, you know, like, with what we've got on right now, with Mass Immune Defense and Power Gauntlet, or as we call it, Bonk, being added to the pool, there's very few things that you're not going to want to see at this point, but so far, a lot of very, very necessary things, plus that loose ship really helping out. It's certainly looking like this could be a quick seed. The magic has grown increasingly generous too. We saw that kind of rough start with level 1 magic, having pretty much just like Bane and Cure 3, which wasn't learnable for red mages at the time. But since then we found Nuke, Warp, Life 2, Temper, and Viz 2. So those mage heavy parties, the fighter rainbow type, gonna be at a good advantage right now.
Yeah, so at this moment, the thing that we are still looking for is some additional movement options. So the two key ones here are going to be the canoe and the floater. Now, normally we wouldn't tie them together, but in this case we do have extended open progression on, which means that we will be able to turn in the floater with just the floater. We don't also need the canoe. So, and with both loose items found, we do know that either the shop item, which could be at Crescent Lake or maybe at Onrak, if it's going to be available pre-floater, pre-canoe, or the Crescent Lake item, which is the Sages, which Ale Markin is going to show us shortly, will be one of those movement options. So that's something to keep an eye on, and will really heavily change the routing at this point, because so far we've kind of been on rails. You're going to do your inner sea checks, the crystal pointed you to Matoya, you're almost always going to check those Temple of Fiends checks, get both loose, Rebui's an obvious turn-in, and then Sages is next. So at this point, we're going to see what Ale Markin decides to do. The two main decision points are going to be whether you go south or whether you go north. What would you lean towards in this case, Groggy Dog?
I'm not sure. Well, okay, so Ale has the crown now. I think we got some good news, bad news, good news here in Crescent Lake. Good news, shop items here. Bad news, a lot more money than you have right now. Good news, pro rings also here, also inexpensive. With that crown, I think I am absolutely gonna go take the turn-in. And see what I can get there, just in case it's the canoe. That opens up so many more options for you. And while you don't want to go around too much, you know, you do have options in terms of parking with the extended open progression, even without the canoe, because you can park either north of the Dwarf Cave or at Elfland. I think now might be a good play to, you know, take your ship, swing down south, and go west from Crescent Lake. Park at Elfland and go check out the crown at the Northwest Castle. That's one of those things that I think new runners often forget is how close it can be to get from Crescent Lake to Elfland. But you know, it's just sometimes your brain doesn't picture the map that way, just because the way the edges are wrapped around. It's a quick enough check that I do it. Barring that, I'm not sure I want to use the rod just yet. Yeah, there's some chests. No, I don't necessarily think that's worth it. But at the same time, we don't have the Oxyale to go chase down some nice Sea Shrine stuff. We don't have the Chime to go check out kind of a risky sky play. Yeah, I think I would be banking on what the crown turn is for sure.
That makes a lot of sense. Yeah, we do actually have the Oxyale, so C is in play.
Oh, that's right, we did get it, yeah.
Yeah, but there is a thing I wanted to point out, which is that Will Bloodworth did something that's fairly common in Black Belt seeds that you won't sometimes see, which is he went and checked out the Topper Earth Floor. So the reason for that is twofold. One, he got a bunch of money, which is really going to pay off with that expensive shop item. The other key thing is that he was also checking spike tiles quickly, trying to find if one of those randomized spike tiles is a good grind for his Black Belt party. And with Earth 1 by itself having 3 distinct grinds, that can be a really nice play. So if you're looking to, you know, pick up the game and try running a Black Belt, checking Earth 1 early, just like Foolish Feline is doing as well, can be a nice little quick turn-in for some cash, for some gear, for some shards, and in this case, for some mediocre but passable grinds.
Yeah. Foolish Feline hopefully gonna make it out of here alive. This is a real risky play. Ooh, and down goes the Black Belt. Hopefully that Black Mage can just hang on, get outside. Let's see. Oh, that's gonna be a reset. Tough, but you know, sometimes that's just what happens. That's what you gotta do.
Yeah, so we're seeing now with this nuke, though, our runners are starting to get a few early levels. This red D tile is a little bit dangerous. Just especially one thing that is often not misunderstood but unappreciated is when you have an early fighter and you equip him with some chain armor. Just adding that absorb at the top of your party can make a huge difference in terms of your ability to survive something like this. Even if Nuke one-shots everything, your fighter can take 3 punches or 4 punches instead of the black belt being able to take 1 or 2, and that can make a big difference. So a little bit of a trouble getting the black belt off the ground for Foolish Feline, but you know what, he's getting there slowly, and we'll see what his adjustment is. Now, unfortunately, Melman does not have a clinic, but I believe we did have a life spell, so it shouldn't cause any problems.
Yeah, and I think sometimes you just gotta be willing to take the L on a couple characters and get, bumping up your mages to level 13. I think anytime you can match your level to the minute on anyone, that's a really good thing. So while it wasn't the ideal, you didn't get the black belt too many levels, kind of just struggled with that, I think it's fine. Now, Aelmarkin grinded out a whole bunch of fights and has enough for the herb and the pro ring, so I think what we're going to see is Aelmarkin's going to try and knock out Elfland and Northwest Castle at the same time, which is smart.
Yeah, one of those 2 items is guaranteed to turn into either the canoe or the floater, as there are no other... They could also turn into the chime, because we do have a sky incentive, but it is guaranteed to lead towards more progression. So I think grinding the money up there and being able to check out what these items are and having all the options at your disposal is a good play, especially when you're in the area, and the Northwest Castle Turn and Elfland are, geographically similar enough that experienced players want to single dip it rather than double dip it.
Yeah, I think, it's always one of those interesting areas where Ale just grinded, where I think sometimes you either don't think about it or you just get too frustrated to try it out, depending on what's there, especially at low levels, but glad it worked out for him, made quick work of it.
We saw in the spring tournament, actually, that we had to grind some money up for the key, and both runners, went up to the Peninsula Power, the pop grind, as it's called in the, for its, being used in the vanilla game, it's quite good for that. So, having little pieces of knowledge like that, definitely a big advantage. And Aelmarkin picks up the chime, so that opens up some very interesting options, as that does mean that the Sky Incentive Chest is now available. And we have a team, I will call it, in the Final Fantasy Randomizer, which is Team Sky, 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 and that's because there's some people who are very fond of the Sky Palace. What are some of the reasons for that, and what should these runners be worried about going to Sky early?
Sure, so I think there are 3 main things. Aelmarkin has the floater, so all of this is just sort of a moot point, because he's going to get to go wherever he wants. But let's talk about Sky real quick. A few things. 1, huge amount of chests, and easily checkable too, especially if you have a warp spell. It is a good bet that you're going to find something of use in Sky. 2, the enemies are a great way to gain a lot of XP, especially when you have level 2 nuke. You're going to have a lot of options for just killing stuff and getting some XP, getting to high levels very early in the game. 3, you have the option of War Mech. Now, War Mech is vanilla in this flag set, not required, so we may not see War Mech on stream at all. But not only is that fight extremely hype, it's just a lot of XP. It's another great way to make sure that you are appropriate level for the end game. And so Sky can potentially be a huge boon. It can, of course, also be a bust. That's part of, pro and con of Randomizer. But it is the kind of play that veterans like to make, just because, maybe the less veteran runners will not think to go there. Maybe they will get scared of it, and then maybe you find the thing that you need, like a loose floater. But obviously in this seed, we've got the floater. It's incentivized. 17 minutes we're in the air, and so Aelmarkin has a lot to open up. Now, when you get a floater this early, part of the issue can be analysis paralysis. Where do I go? What do I do? What sort of things are you looking for, and what are you hoping to decide on once you get the floater this early?
Yeah, so I think the first thing that I'm thinking about is where can I get potentially some free chests that are roughly in the area that I want to go anyways. So without the canoe, actually, you can't go to a few places with the floater. So, for example, you can't go to Waterfall, you can't go to Ordeals, but there are some free chests in that area in the Cardi Isles, and with Shard Hunt on and kind of the gear situation being good but not great, that's definitely something that would be at the top of my list to go get some more money, to go get some, maybe pick up a ribbon, and also just pick up a few free shards. Runners could also decide to leave that till later to try and go to when they promote with the tail, but that's a decision that they can make. But I would definitely be expecting, check out the Cardia Isles, and then potentially make your initial grind to get a few initial dive to get a few levels and open up some chest dense areas. And both of those things are kind of screaming a potential volcano play. So we'll have to see what Ale Markin decides. But as we were just mentioning, though, Sky is also an option. So I think those are the three things I'd be deciding between: Volcano for chest density, a little bit lower level; Cardia for free chests; and Sky for high level enemies, more experienced but a little bit more dangerous. And it looks like Ale is opting for Volcano.
Now, Ale just did something that I think is worth talking about. It is a pretty deep strategy that a lot of newer runners don't need to worry about at the start, but is really good the more you play. What Ale is doing, he's going to burn off some encounters. Ale has recognized a pattern in the random encounter table. Everyone that plays the same seed is going to have the same random encounter table. So maybe it's like you take 5 steps, encounter, then 10 steps, encounter, then 5 steps, encounter. And then if you identify that it's 40 steps after that without an encounter, you know, okay, I'm going to burn off 10 steps. I'm going to reset because now I've moved past those on the encounter table, and I can start this dungeon with a nice clean run without getting too many encounters. It is a veteran move, and it's one of those things that just kind of like looks weird if you don't know what's going on, but it's going to save these runners who do that a little bit of hassle in terms of just not having to worry about it. Ale picking up some nice stuff. I see a white shirt there. At -3 may not be something you equip, but it is going to be great for some free Invis 2 charges. That Opal 4 is going to be some really nice armor, though.
Yeah, for sure. So, all in all, this Volcano play looking pretty good. No spike tiles of note, which is important more for our black belt players than for our fighter players. But as you'll see, our 2 runners on the bottom as well, quickly getting into the air, making some checks as well. So I do want to, continue. Yes, Ale Markin's been doing a little bit of more exploration, just a little bit faster, as he has a little bit more experience with the game. But our 2 ducklings on the bottom here also making quick work, and Foolish Feline about to, holding hands with Ale Markin in the Volcano here as Will Bloodworth gets into the air as well. Will Bloodworth looks like he's opting for an alternative play. I'm going to guess this is a Cardia check, as that is definitely something that would be on my mind, getting into the air early.
Yeah, and I think especially for Will, without the tail, he would love to be able to do all this in one trip, but it's just such a free and easy check, and there are a lot of chests here. You don't have to worry about it. So, maybe it gives you something really good, and then it eases the burdenness of the dungeons you have to go into. So, I definitely like the Cardia Island play. But Volcano hopefully going to pay out in terms of more than just armor for Ale Markin here. We're seeing some savvy plays down at the bottom, though, like you said. I think I saw DVS found a chest with about 29,000 gold, which is going to help. Ooh, black 5 shirt from Will Bloodworth over in the Cardia Island. That's going to be really nice for his black mage.
Yeah, so, slightly different approaches. Now, one thing to note is that as long as you're getting a shard somewhere, it is going to be a worthwhile play. So, a little bit in contrast to Seeds without Shard Hunt, once you found all the loose, every chest that they're checking is not just looking for items, so it's not just an incremental gear increase. These shards are the end game condition, and it might not have been immediately obvious at the beginning, but you don't actually need to collect all of the shards in the game. There are extra shards because of the fact that the Fiends give shards, so that means that these runners do not all need to do the same things. They don't all need to open the same chest, so trying to get those shards as efficiently as possible is kind of the name of the game. You don't know exactly where they are, but checking chest dense areas or quick areas tends to be very valuable, as Will Bloodworth doing showing us all 3 elements of the plays I was talking about earlier, going to Sky next. So we've seen some Volcano dives, Volcano 1 in particular, the Armory floor in particular. We've seen the Cardia Isles, and now Will Bloodworth is going to be showing us Sky as he quickly burns a few encounters.
Yeah, and I think that was a great idea. Earth Cave is the obvious one that you just want to avoid. Nothing good is waiting for you in Earth Cave. It's got fewer chests, it's taking longer to do it, and even if you do kill the Lich, which almost all these runners I think could kill the Lich right now, you're only going to get 2 shards from that at the end of the journey, so odds are not going to be something that we see a number of these runners do, period, unless they are really in straits. I like Volcano play. I really like that Sky play from Will Bloodworth. Again, you're kind of banking when you go to Sky that the other runners aren't going to do that, and that you might get a slight edge by taking the chance on this and, maybe going in with a little bit more difficult set of fights ahead of you. But Life 2 and Nuke at level 2 make this a lot more manageable.
Yeah, the other thing of note right now is that the runners do have Warp, and Warp is applicable to a number of places. The 2 I would say it's important in all locations. Like Volcano, it lets you get out the Armory safely. heal up and save, which is what Aelmark and Foolish Feline are doing. In Sky, it lets you take your levels, get out, save, use a house, get those spell charges back, go back in, open some more chests, save your levels, and that can really make a big difference. And it's also really important for Ice Cave, as Ice Cave does have one of our remaining incentive items. At this point, we know that the canoe is either going to be in Ice Cave or it's going to be in Sky. So both those locations with Warp, there's a couple little plays that these runners can make, which is always nice to see.
Yeah, absolutely. So in the Ice Cave, normally in the vanilla game you wouldn't be able to have Warp when you go to the Ice Cave, but if you are in a hurry and don't need necessarily to check every chest in the Ice Cave, what you can do is go around to the left, over and up, and then drop down the hole in between all 3 chests, use Warp, and then you are going to be floating on top of that hole with access to all 3 chests, including the incentivized chest. It is a great trick to save a ton of time in the Ice Cave, and you can similarly use Warp to your advantage when you get to Castle Ordeals. Now, normally, you would have to take the exact same route every time when you go through. It's going to be the bottoms, pretty much, of every one with more than one teleporter. But in the randomizer, they are going to be shuffled. And you can warp back to the previous room by using Warp. If you have, infinite warp charges, whatever you've got with the Fighter Rainbow, then you're in a good spot. You can just kind of warp back as much as you want. But it may also be a case of just picking your bets and trying to get through as fast as possible. Either way, having Warp makes both those options a lot more appealing because you have a safety net.
Mm-hmm. No, absolutely, and those are all really good calls, and they can definitely impact routing as well. Now, while we've kind of been chatting, a few kind of key pieces of gear pickup here. Pro capes are low, which is a little unfortunate for the heavy mage parties, as it does remove kind of their maximum absorb. But critically, Will Bloodworth found a ribbon in the greater than less than area, which is going to provide resistance to all elements as well as kind of most status effects outside of when they're applied using touch. So that is a really nice piece of late game safety. The black belt can get the magic defense that he needs just by getting a bunch of levels, but for that white mage, it's going to really add a lot of safety for that critical life caster as they go through the Temple of Fiends Revisited. So a ribbon, always a nice pickup.
Yeah, and over on Aelmarkin's side, we found what was at least temporarily a very juicy grind tile in Iron Gall. He got about 5,500 off of that. He's already 18, 19 on everybody. He's just gonna go straight down and take out carry. He is trucking.
Yeah, man, Iron Gall's on the red D tile. A really, really nice find. We were speaking about what black belts want. Now, Iron Galls aren't ideal for black belts because they do tend to have very high absorb. However, once the black belt gets to a high enough level that they can consistently get enough hits to crit, the Iron Galls can absolutely be great. It's just not so good for like the first little bit of the grind, but absolutely can be used to finish it.
Yeah. And it looks like DVS is finishing up some shopping in Elfland, but he's got the crown, which means we are very close to having all 4 runners on stream up in the air.
Yeah, and
which makes it even harder for us to pay attention.
Yeah. Will Bloodworth picked up another ribbon in the Ice Cave. This is going to be a fairly common check, I would say. If this was just a non-shard hunt, a lot of people might skip these chests because they know they just need the incentive item in order to be able to complete the game. But in this case, checking the chests for shards definitely worthwhile. Finds a nice armor as well, which is going to be best in slot armor for that thief once it promotes to a ninja.
Right.
And the Ice Cave incentive is the bottle, so that's going to not be able to be turned in until we hit Gaia. Meanwhile, Will Bloodworth speaking of best in slot armor, finds a Dragon Armor +2 for everyone with fighters.
Not bad. For not him. Unfortunately, he doesn't have a single party member that is going to be able to put on that Dragon Armor. That is fighter only, promoted fighter only. So we're going to see DVS and Aelmarkin hopefully pick that up. Certainly Aelmarkin looks like he's checking all of those. DVS, I imagine, will get there before too long.
Yeah, wow, we have just like fantastic armor. We had a black shirt 5, we had dragon armor, we have an ice shield there, an ice armor. So we are going to be rocking some very good absorb, good element resistance going back into the Temple of Fiends Revisited, which we do need to be a little bit careful of because of those clamped bosses. So clamped bosses impact strategy quite a bit because you're no longer going to be guaranteed to just be able to, like, you know, cast a few nukes and get through the fiends. They are guaranteed to have at least their vanilla HP, at least their vanilla hits, at least their vanilla damage, at least their vanilla absorb, and at least their vanilla evade, which overall just makes the bosses a lot more dangerous than they would be without clamped, because the combination of all those things basically makes sure that their effective HP is going to be much higher than unclamped bosses.
Yeah.
So getting good gear, definitely important. We're not anything crazy. Like 180 clamped is... you don't have to over-prepare, but you do need to prepare.
Yeah, absolutely. And like I said, been pretty generous. There goes Ale finding the Dragon 2 and the Ribbon. There are a lot of options for the runners here. Will Bloodworth took a little bit of an awkward route through the ice cave. He decided to go back just to see what the grind tile that's normally blocking your way to the incentivized chest in the ice cave is. Like, you know, just he's looking for whatever he can get at this point. So he is either going to warp out or just run back through this again. There we go. Okay, so he's just looking at the spike tiles right now, and DVS making a very quick play to Sky after getting the floater, which I respect. And we've got a Fiend on screen as well. Foolish Viewline pulling carry.
Yeah, carry. Carry 1 weak to status elemental, which doesn't come up a lot, but generally speaking what you want to do is just damage it till it's dead. Nukes, maybe a fasted black belt, but at this level I'm not going to do too much. Nukes should get the job done. Vanilla carry has 600 HP, so maximum of, you know, just around 1,000. So you're not going to have any trouble with nukes averaging about 200.
Yeah, absolutely.
And there we go. We've had multiple people kill carry at this point, so that is 2 shards though. Generally, Fiend strategy for shard hunt is that Fiends are guaranteed shards. So as these runners start doing the math, I know Twitch math, be aware, so we won't be saying how many shards they need, but these runners are doing the math in their head, like saying, hey, I need to open this many more chests, and then I need to go kill Kraken and Tia, and those are going to be my last 8 shards. Or I'm going to open this many chests until I'm at this shard count, and then my plan is to go kill Kraken and Lich, and then I'll be done. So those guaranteed shards are just always going on in their heads, but if they happen to find a bunch of loose shards just kind of while they're on their way, they definitely will choose to skip some bosses, Lich being the most notable.
Yeah, absolutely. Quick look as I'm kind of looking around everyone's inventories. It looks like Foolish Feline might be just behind Ailmarkin on stream in terms of shards pulled. I haven't seen DVS open his inventory recently. Will Bloodworth kind of trailing behind, only 3 shards from what I could see.
Yeah, the plays that he's been making just haven't had as many shards. However, I think it's just because Volcano had like 3 or 4 shards just in the armory, plus carry.
Yeah.
So, that's basically the shard difference at this point in time.
A high 5 at the ferry gives us TNT, which I imagine these runners are going to take a look at now since we don't have the slab yet.
So yeah, Gregory Pup pointing out in chat that not only is Sky huge because of 52 chests, it also does give you those 4 shards for killing Tia. And Tia being scary with clamp bosses is kind of true, but also kind of not true, as I believe Brack was level 2. So as long as you can get a little bit of defense up, and if you're level 20 or so, you should be able to Brack Tia down with some consistency. We do have a white shirt as well, so we can, you know, envis shirt strats, plus get your fighter up. Tia is probably doable at the levels that, say, Ailmarkin is at right now, which is probably why he's in Sky right now.
Yeah, I think Ailmarkin has to feel very comfortable with the levels you've got right now. If anything, when you're doing a shard hunt, what you have to be careful of in Sky is just party magic fatigue. Because you are intentionally going to be checking absolutely everything, because, you know, even though you have the loose, there are 28 possible loose items. Even a highly leveled and well-equipped party can just start running out of spells, and then all it takes is 1 errant Warmech encounter, or perhaps 2 if you are so lucky or unlucky, however you want to look at it, 2 Warmech encounters. And you could be in a precarious spot and on the verge of losing all of the things that you worked very hard to get. Again, Ailmarkin, extremely well equipped. Doesn't have some of the big things on, like the white shirt, dragon armor. He's going to have to wait until he gets promoted to be able to do that. But still in very good position to do well for this guy.
Yeah, and it does look like the TNT turns into the tail, so promotion definitely on the books, but we do get to now play a little bit of a promotion game of chicken, as I like to call it, with the parties that have a black belt, as we do have vanilla MDef growth on, which means that the black belt will get less MDef per level once it promotes. So on the other hand, things like the Thief and the Fighter will start getting spell charges once they promote. So for parties like Will Bloodworth, there's a little bit of a back and forth over when you want to promote, versus for people with Fighters, it's promote as soon as you can. And that's why going to promote before you go into like Sky, for example, is a little bit of an advantage, because then you don't have to worry about getting more levels after you're out of Sky.
Yeah, and that's why I'm actually a little surprised that Ale went straight from the bottle to Sky. Yes, it is very close. Yes, you save a little bit of time doing that. But he's already... What he might be thinking at this point is that I'm already so high level, it's not really going to matter all that much when I promote, except for when I get to Topher. I just want to make sure I have all the promotable armor on for when I get to Topher. You know, I think it's level 15 that you would love to get your fighter promoted by to get the maximum number of spell charges. Obviously, he was way above that already, not an issue. But still a little bit surprised. It's a nice thing to have, especially when you've got that Dragon 2 armor just sitting in your inventory.
Yeah, I think the motivating factor for him, if I was in Ale Markenschus, is that the other item that we're missing right now is the Adamant. So he might be trying to only single-trip dwarves, knowing that this is an incentive item. Yeah. Because this item is guaranteed to lead to the canoe, which means that if it's the Adamant, for example, that's Adamant to canoe, and he's going to be heading to dwarves right away in order to get the required key from either Ordeals or Waterfall. So, or this could be the key, and then it's in Canaria locked, I believe.
Yeah, Canaria locked is incentivized, so they're gonna go there, and then we'll see if he feels very comfortable with his levels, or if he's gonna use that to potentially sniff out a couple other spike tiles, along with giving you access to a number of chests. You do also get a couple immediately accessible spike tiles, both in terms of Marsh, which I don't think he's going to go to, the Northwest Castle, and the Temple of Fiends, the east side of that building.
So yeah, so we have a little bit of hand-holding, but that key turn-in is very valuable in Shard Hunt because of not only the key item, but also, as you said, just all those chests. And every time we say chests, you should be hearing endgame condition. Shard Hunt is very different than your traditional Kill All the Fiends. Because Kill All the Fiends, once you are in go mode, which means you have all the items needed to kill all the fiends, plus you have the key and the loot if Short Topher is not on, then you can basically not open another chest and know that you can beat the game, assuming that you can kill chaos. But in this case, you're going to need to keep opening boxes, so chess equals endgame condition, eventually.
Yeah, absolutely, and I think we're going to see Ale digging some chests and making good veteran use of that warp spell here in just a second. Sky is made infinitely faster in a few locations if you just decide to check a chest, warp back, come back to the floor you're on, and repeat for 3 or 4 times, however much you need it. And so in a race like this, especially where you have to check a lot of chests, that's a good move, and it's good to see him. Now, he is more than halfway there. Ale Markin has quite a few. DVS, I think, also feeling probably very happy with this play, too. There seem to be a lot of those shards here in the actual Sky Tower portion, instead of just the tower portion of this dungeon. Definitely a fruitful encounter area.
Yeah, and you
Sword, too, should be helpful. I'm not sure. You start to get into an area where you think, like, maybe I can throw the Mass Immune -5 on, like, my black belt, and then throw the Sun Sword on my fighter, depending on what level you are. I don't know that you would, but it's a consideration. It's nice to have.
Mm-hmm. No, definitely. And at this point, he's in very good shape levels-wise and everything to keep on going up. And as we were saying, like, Sky, definitely a key play in the seat, is all 4 runners at 37 minutes have all gone to Sky at some point. I guess technically Will Bloodworth has stayed grounded in just the Mirage Tower, but they've all gone to at least the Mirage Towers. It's just that kind of key in this particular flag set, and also just with the items that they found so far. A little bit unusual to not have the canoe at this point.
Yeah. It'll be interesting to see how much our runners put stock in finding those last few incentivized items. They don't need to once they have the key. The key is the last thing they need alongside the loot. Short Topher isn't on, so they need both the loot and the key to get to Chaos at the end of the day. I think there's absolutely a case to just say screw it and ignore those and go treasure hunt.
Yeah, I don't think the defense or the power gauntlet, power bonk, are necessary for these runners to win this seed, so we could see a lot of people skipping them. That being said, Ordeals is a relatively quick check with a fairly large number of chests, with Warp in particular. If they didn't have Warp, I think it'd be kind of off the table entirely. Also, Waterfall could be fairly quick with Warp, and if you're going to be going to C next, which is a very logical play for someone like Ale Markin to make after he does the key locks, instead of, if he needs a few more shards, go to C, go mermaids, get some shards, kill Kraken, get some more shards, and that should be enough for him to kind of be ready to enter Temple of Fiends Revisited. You could quickly check Waterfall if you want to get a little bit more item security, as well as check 6 more chests.
Yeah, and Ale Markin handily takes care of Tiamat. I think that's exactly what he's going to do. Start with C Shrine, and then
key locks. Key locks, then C Shrine.
Yes.
Because he needs the canoe, and he does not want to sail to Onrak.
Yes, very good point. Although again, I mean, theoretically, this seed could be done without the canoe.
It's true. The seed is beatable without the canoe. So yeah, as Stu pointing out in chat, we have a dead dragon, and not causing too much problems, and all of our runners getting a ton of levels through here. But something of note, and this is something for some reason you always see this with veteran runners compared to like a new runner like myself, or the people on the bottom of the screen, is they somehow have more levels when they're doing the same thing that you're doing. So Ale Markin had more levels, which means he had more charges of Warp, more charges of Nuke, which made this whole Sky play seem incredibly safe, water off a duck's back. But for runners who are coming in slightly lower level, you're getting your levels here, and therefore you have a few less spell charges. So good spell, making sure you're using the right spells at the right time and not overcasting things like Nuke, make more of a difference. But DVS actually, his level situation is better than I thought it was. His health was just low, so I thought everyone was lower level than it was.
Yeah, but I think to your point, one of those things that you learn the more you play is, and I know that people will hate me for this, but it's not always gotta go fast. Sometimes you gotta go slower. Sometimes you have to take the encounters that are annoying you along the way if they provide enough XP. I think that's one of those things that is easier said than done, because sometimes you just want to go, especially if you feel like all the other runners are breathing down your neck, or whatever it is. But Ale Markin's done a really good job of taking fights along the way that have put him that little bit of an edge up to get him there, and Ale Markin now has the tail. Ale Markin at this point might very well be thinking, I don't necessarily need the canoe, I'm going to promote, and then we'll again, I definitely think C Shrine is the next best play. Earth, isn't it? Without, you can chase down the canoe pretty quick and get to Castle Ordeals, but I think you've got a pretty decent chest density in C Shrine, plus you've got does he already have enough shards?
No, he's just checking key locks.
Thank
Temple of Fiends.
goodness. Okay, for a second I was like, did I just totally miscount how many he had? Yeah, again, no. I don't love this play personally. He has the levels. Probably not going to get a lot out of just 3 chests, and I think this does take a decent amount of time.
But I think there's a certain routine you get into when you're doing key locks. You decide you're either going to go clockwise or counterclockwise. With Warp, it's relatively quick, or just resetting out, and he is off to the races. Meanwhile, DVS taking on Kraken, we'll see how long, or sorry, Tiamat, we'll see how long that lasts. And Ale Markin also making the decision, you know what, there's more free chests I haven't checked yet, let's go see Cardia.
Yeah, good job.
Yeah, so this all makes sense, and he'll also be using the reset out if it's nothing, / warp if it's something trick, so that makes everything faster. Warp, a great spell.
Yeah, as Stu notes, he did leave Vorpal in the Temple of Fiends, which many people will consider a great move, and some people will be deeply offended by, depending on which side of the Vorpal is good or bad debate you end up on.
Yeah, the Vorpal, of course, being a weapon with a very high crit rate, but a relatively low base damage, which means it excels against the later game Fiends, where crit is almost more important than damage because their Absorb makes damage relatively meaningless unless you can crit through their Absorb.
Yeah.
it also benefits a lot from low-level tempers or power bonks. So in this case, we do have a relatively low-level temper, and power bonk is incentivized. So Vorpal, not a bad sword for taking on Chaos, for example.
Yeah, but as pointed out, it was -2, so it loses some of that edge that it has, and I think when you've already got the Mass Immune, even -5 Mass Immune plus the Sun Sword, you just have better options.
Yeah, for sure. And so that makes a lot of sense there. Meanwhile, he is promoting while Will is going to go quickly heal up. DVS is through Tiamat, and it looks like he actually wasn't in the air, so he just sailed over the sky. So he is going to be getting airborne shortly. Meanwhile, Foolish Feline finishing up the Sky Palace, and will be fighting Tiamat once he finishes clearing this out. And we'll have to hope that he does the warp tricks here as well. Now, as we're getting around the 45-minute mark, and before we get to kind of the mad sprint at the end as the runners start doing math in their head, how many more shards do I need to win, this is the flag set for the Duckling Derby. So do you want to go into a little bit more details about what that is, and, like, you know, if people are interested, how they get involved?
Boy, would I love to. So we have a really robust beginner's program for the Final Fantasy Randomizer. It can be a little bit intimidating to learn, but there are a ton of really awesome resources out there. We got a Warmech fight on Foolish Feline. Sorry to pause that. Oh, 517 on the black belt. Takes it down quick. This is scary, and while I would love to see a Warmech kill, I think it is absolutely the right call to just get out of dodge and save the run. You got too much good stuff in there. And a second Warmech! Foolish Feline, which deity did you piss off today? Oh my goodness. And yeah, smartly, I think, takes a run from that one as well.
Whew, okay, our duck showing some fortitude here, getting through those Warmechs. But, you know, if you join our Duckling Derby, you will be able to run from Warmechs just like that. No, so do you want to continue on the...
The first time I've been responsible for a commentator curse in Foolish Feline, I'm so sorry for you. So yes, the Duckling program is a really robust way to welcome beginners into the community and sort of train you up from very basic flag sets into things as difficult as floor and entrance shuffled, which will really get your brain working. What we do about twice a year is we have a Duckling Derby. We get all the ducks, our new beginners, you know, rounded up, and we'll do 4 races. And they are coming up this weekend. We have 4 races beginning July 3rd, this Friday, Sunday the 5th, and then the following week on the 10th and the 11th, all at 9 p.m. Eastern. It is going to be a chance for 29 registered ducklings to race against each other and try and claim the spot of Duckling Supreme. Now, I say that, but they are one step removed from that process. Whoever wins will have the chance to go up against the current Duckling Supreme.
I hear he's pretty bad.
Who is currently visiting this chat. I managed to beat Gouda when I won the Duckling Derby in January, and so I am currently the reigning Duckling Supreme. And while I am a little bit out of practice since the spring tournament, I've got to get back on it soon, because as we can see, these ducks are not to be trifled with. There are a lot of extremely promising new players here. I think a lot of people cut their teeth on the spring tournament in a way that is really unique and got a lot of amazing experience against some extremely good runners on a pretty difficult flag set, to be honest. And so I think we're going to see a quality of play in the Duckling Derby that is unlike just about anything else we've seen before. So if you are a beginner, it is absolutely not too late to join. Like I said, they start this weekend, and it does not matter your experience level. We would love to have you. But I think, you know, just because of how much experience some of these runners are going to have thanks to the spring tournament, it is going to be an awesome, awesome tournament. We've got such an amazing staff working on that, so shouts to them. I might want to watch out for the guy in the booth with me. Gregory Puff, noted duck boss, says, and I think that is absolutely good. Chat over here with some extremely high level of knowledge for the game, considering that you yourself are a duck.
Yes, I am looking forward to this, and you heard it here first. Groggy Dog, a little bit worried about this upcoming class of ducks, and as he said, there's every right to be, as you can see by the great quality of gameplay that you're seeing right now. I do want to highlight an important routing decision that did go on, which surprised me a little bit, is that Ale Markin decided to go to Waterfall before going to Sea Shrine. Now, the option was potentially to go do Mermaid side first, followed by Crack, and then do Waterfall if he needed more shards, / felt like his gear situation wasn't good enough, but it looks like he's prioritizing the known defense sword, which casts Ruse, or the known power bonk here, over, you know, potentially being able to skip it. So wanting a little bit more security, and I can't say I blame him, But just something of note, and I'm not sure if I would have made the same decision, but this is something that pays off with both a power bonk and a shard, so can't argue too much.
Absolutely. Currently holding my breath as I watch Foolish Feline have a particularly rough fight against Tiamat. I don't think we saw Thunder come out against Aelmarkin, but it did a number on Foolish Feline's party, and it doesn't look like that black belt has been maybe not fasted up, although I just saw 242 damage come out. This is going to be a very scary run to the end for Foolish Feline, who really does not want to lose all that progress. And sure enough, sigh of relief, Foolish Feline makes it through and is going to be thanking his lucky stars tonight.
I was going to say, don't take a step. Heal right away. You can walk away after, but make sure you save. Never, ever take a step.
The randomizer giveth, the randomizer taketh away. There is a one tile south of Volcano known as the Groggy Dog Memorial Parking Spot, in which I defeated Carrie with one black belt, walked out. My airship was 2 steps away. I took 1 step. I died and lost all that. So it is anytime I see that, I get very nervous because I know through experience how painful that can be.
Oh, okay. I was just doing a quick shard check on Ael's screen, and I think, I may be wrong here, that he was actually 5 shards away from being ready to enter Temple of Fiends Revisited, which explains his waterfall play, because I think waterfall was actually a substitution for going mermaid side, because he needed a shard. So he was like, okay, I'll get my shard and then I can go kill Kraken, rather than spending a ton of time here and see. We'll have to see though when he opens his menu again, because this may be, instead of trying to skip waterfall, this may be trying to skip mermaids, which is actually a faster, like, they're fairly equitable, plus you get a free defense or power bonk, which are both better gear than anything you're going to find out in the wild at this point.
Yeah.
DVS, meanwhile, taking on Carrie, while Will Bloodworth kind of exploring Sky last, because he did have to double dip this, and unfortunately for Will, that is kind of the difference right now, is that he went here first, and then had to leave and come back, while Aelmarkin's kind of cleared everything his first go around, including the Dwarf Cave. So, like, Aelmarkin's really prioritized not having to go somewhere twice, and that is something that takes a lot of experience to kind of know when it's the right time to try and prioritize that, versus when you need the gear, levels, etc. you can get from double dipping somewhere.
Yeah, absolutely.
So yeah,
around the horn, and I think that, let's see here. I would love to get one more look at these runners' inventory, which we can see. I think DVS might have pulled slightly ahead on the orb count of Foolish Feline. I might be totally making that up. Foolish Feline looking pretty good. A couple shards and fiend kills away from opening up Temple Fiends himself.
Yeah, it's very important for viewers to recognize the fact that these runners get 8 free shards if they haven't already killed Tiamat and Kraken. And while Foolish Feline has killed Tiamat, he still does have Kraken, which is just 4 shards, and you know you can get that relatively quickly. So you do always have to kind of be doing that placeholder sharding when you're trying to figure out how many more chests you need to open. Yeah, and as I know that we're going to be getting to a pretty crazy time coming up here soon, as we're going to be entering Temple of Fiends Revisited, so I'll just kind of give a quick recap of what you're looking if you're just joining us on stream. My name's Jat2980, you can just call me Jat, and I'm joined here in the booth by Groggy Dog. Want to say hello, Groggy Dog?
Howdy.
And we are watching Final Fantasy Randomizer action. This is our weekly race, which you can sign up to take part in right now. We always are showcasing different flag sets for upcoming tournaments or just generally fun things, and we feature 4 runners on Restream, but others are going on in the background. This is a great opportunity to learn a little bit more about the game, so if you have any questions, hit us up in chat. If you want to follow our runners, you can see those in the links there, or if you want to follow our commentators, feel free. Our tracker tonight is Magus, and he is doing a great job with our restreamer Mathgirl, who is pointing out the different streams and links in chat. So far, we had 2 loose found immediately, so these runners were immediately knowing they didn't have to open more chests for that, but little change of plans. We are in Shard Hunt instead of Fiend Kills to open the Temple of Fiends Revisited, which means they need to get these things called slices, and they need 32 of them. They're able to get a few of them from Fiends, but mostly they're going to be opening up chests. So these runners are just finishing off the last few of those, and then they will be entering the Temple of Fiends Revisited. And if my eyes do not deceive me, it looks like Aelmarkin is exactly 4 away.
Yeah, I think you're right. It's tough to tell when things go so fast. It's funny, you get used to that quick menu when you yourself are playing, and then as soon as you try and watch yourself back or watch literally anyone else do it, your brain sort of stops working. It's like, I don't know what to make of any of this.
So AO Markin taking on Kraken, going with swing and nuke strats, and those swings not doing a lot right now. That Masa -5 showing why it's a Minimoon, because it's not hitting that hard without that bonus crit rate against a high absorb fiend, and those clamp bosses really showing. If you think 3 hits, 5 damage is kind of what you're looking to, wait until we hit Temple of Fiends Revisited with those Fiend refights. So really showing the importance of preparation in this flag set.
Chat, how long were you sitting on Minimoon?
Oh, that's our... The Ducks love it. Minimoon is like basically what we are. We're like veterans -5, so we'll take it.
That's good. Again, the Duckling class right now is stellar, and I am genuinely very nervous for whoever I have to fight. I think it's going to be a good time. One thing we didn't mention is the actual structure of how the points work for the Duckling Derby. It is a really fantastic way to make sure that it is fair and allows people to run all 4 races. It's Mario Kart scoring. So first place is going to be a certain number of points, then it goes down from there. So it gives you a chance it means that you're not out. Even if you have 1 bad race, you can potentially come back, win 2, and still win the whole thing. So it's a really fun way to keep everybody in it and keep the drama going right until the 4th night. Yeah, we see AO Markin after killing Carrie. It looks like he is not quite full on shards.
Yeah, I swear he is, but maybe he's doing a quick gear check. I don't know what gear he could be looking for in the wild, considering he has, I guess, an X-Cal is really the only thing. Oh no,
he was 1 short. It was one
short. Okay, there we go.
Yeah, I was wondering if he was looking for the X-Cal, maybe that Masa -5 was just not working for him, but no, it looks like he was just 1 short again. You menu fast, you got 4 small screens, it can be tough to tell. But we have our first completely go mode runner at this point. AO has everything that he needs to go take on the Temple of Fiends Revisited, take down Chaos, and restore the time loop. So we are about to see some very fun action. It'll be, again, I think he's got to be feeling pretty good in terms of level, magic, armor, weapons. He's pretty much got the whole package. I don't see him going anywhere else before he goes to Temple of Fiends. So yeah, it's definitely his race to lose right now, depending on what we've got from our off-stream runners. But he is in a very good place.
Yeah, a 54-minute go mode on these flags is quite fast. I've been running a number of these myself to kind of prepare, and that is on the upper end of how quickly I've been able to hit go mode. So like the fastest go mode I think I've had is around 57 minutes. And this seed being both fast and AL also being a very good runner, just showing what you can do. As too loose immediate just really makes this an absolute jet seed.
Yeah, absolutely.
So
we got a question from Mathgirl in chat. So Duckling flags are friendly for someone who, say, has never played the vanilla game, right? And I will take a Gilderoy Lockhart moment to plug my own website in which I go over everything a beginner needs. I think if you're going to go into the randomizer without ever having played the Final Fantasy base game, whether that is the new mobile or PSP version, or the classic NES, it is learnable, absolutely. I think you are gonna thank yourself if you just go through and beat it once. You could always do the quote-unquote vanillish version, which uses all the speed hacks that we have here in the randomizer to take the notoriously slow NES game and speed it up quite a bit. I think that's a good way to do it. Is there one on iOS? Yeah, that's actually the first Final Fantasy one that I beat was the iOS version. It's got the same sprites as all the PSP ones. So, strong recommend. I definitely think this is an approachable enough randomizer that you can start those beginning things by just looking at some references, looking at some websites, and going from there. But it'll help if you've played it at least once.
Yeah. I think the duck flags are a good starting point for people who played it, in their childhood or who memorized the Nintendo Power. Then, you can dive right into some of the earlier ones. But if not, playing the vanilla game definitely helps, as it'll help you with magic, item locations, etc. Definitely recommend vanilla-ish, though, rather than vanilla, so you don't play with a bunch of really, really buggy everything.
Yeah.
And at 57 minutes, we have our first runner on stream in the Temple of Fiends Revisited, Ale Markin. And we still do not have a finisher off stream either, so Ale Markin fighting for first place in this race.
Yeah, and he's making quick work already of the first few floors, which are going to make him feel pretty good. You know, of all the things that you can get that are unrunnable, a single worm is not the worst. That's some free experience. It's going to be over nice and quick. And we are already on to Lich 2's floor. So now I think is you know, the real moment. We've got everything that we need. Are the Fiends going to be kind to us, or are they going to make this as hard as possible on Elmark to get through?
Yeah, Lich not generally going to be the speed bump, so if Lich generally looking to be a speed bump rather than the wall or, you know, the real test that this Temple of Fiends Revisited has. But as they get on to, even starting with carry, a little bit of a scary thing right now is if you have a nuke and punch happy fiend. So Kraken probably being the most notable, but if this fighter goes down, you know, to one punch, because the key thing they are lacking at the moment is any sort of quick acting invis, so like a defense sword or ruse on the knight. One punch could be a little bit of a problem for Ale Markin, and if that fighter goes down, damage not looking so good. Another scary thing would be an early nuke, as both of his mages are slightly under the 400 maximum damage threshold, so a high roll nuke could make it solo fighter versus the world, which is really difficult when you're responsible for buffing yourself and surviving punches. So those are things to be a little bit worried about.
It is also, of course, funny. Sometimes you don't want to see the early nuke. Sometimes you very much want to see the early nuke so that, you know, Chaos doesn't have 3 of them. But as Gregory Puff said in chat, and I think I just saw as well, it looks like DVS might be at full shards. Oh, no. One row left. Almost there, but not quite. Again, a little tough to see on these screens. He's getting close, though. He was the last runner on stream to get the airship, but he's not that far behind, I don't think.
No, DVS has been running lots of practice runs of these duck flags. Very competitive runner within the duck scene. And, you know, really showing he knows how to get ready for these different fights, and he knows, you know, what to do against the clan bosses. So that's what we're seeing from DVS at this point, and I think he's going to be going to see Shrine shortly. Will Bloodworth. I thought he was entering Temple of Fiends Revisited, but looks like he's checking something else first. Is he a shard short or something? Oh, he's many shards short. He's just doing key locks, sorry.
Yeah, I think he's just doing key checks.
Meanwhile, Ale Markin onto the second of the Fiend refights in carry. Vanilla has 700 HP, goes down. No real problems so far, but the 3 gatekeepers of the Temple of Fiends Revisited are upcoming. Generally speaking, it's not all 3, but one of the 3 usually is a little bit tough, and we have yet to see a nuke or a nuclear, and we've seen Warmech a few turns, Lich a few turns, and Carry a few turns.
Yeah, I think this is where you start to, if you are paying attention, get a little bit nervous. It's always in the back of your head, hey, maybe I've just killed them so fast that I didn't see the bad stuff. But as soon as you start getting cocky and stop taking the Fiend seriously, that's exactly the moment they're going to double nuke you or do something horrible. So, you know, one of the greatest parts of the randomizer is that feeling of uncertainty you get when you're making your way through Temple of Fiends, of knowing, I did so much work, is it going to pay off?
So Ale Markin already getting some really good news there. Starting off with AoE fire magic, not gonna do too much, and also his fighter got all the buffs off in the world, so that is very nice. But Kraken did not skip Arm Day, but
obliterates the Black Mage.
Is not gonna last long though. The second hit will kill this Kraken, assuming he gets a similar number of crits, and there he goes. So speed and power strats against 180% clan boss is making a lot of sense with fast tempers and a minimum.
Who needs defense and healing when you've got level 2 nuke?
Here we go, on to the next fiend, 1100 HP on this Tiamat, so can go up to around 2000. That does mean that one-shotting it's not really going to be possible, but Tia doesn't generally hit as hard. What we're scared of here is like back-to-back nukes or nuclears, so, you know, keep your eyes peeled on the top right runner. Although, don't be afraid, you know, bottom right Foolish Feline about to take on Kraken, and DVS going to be heading into Sea Shrine shortly.
Yeah, I think all 3 of our other runners were all quite close to each other. It really just kind of depends on which chests they check and which fiends they decide to fight. Any one of them could be heading to the Temple of Fiends here quite soon. Ooh, Tiamat back rows that black mage. Certainly a lot better than having your red mage back road. You want to keep those life 2 charges, but you see Elmarkin hesitating now just a little bit. That is not something he maybe expected.
And quickly makes the adjustment to Invis strats. I really like this move. I didn't realize the fighter had Ruse, but that is a critical spell. Ruse does 2 stacks of Invis, whereas the White Shirt and Invis 2 only do 1. So with Ruse and Invis 2, you're basically guaranteed that you're going to get up to enough evasion for the fighter to survive at least a few punches. And now at the stage he's at with 4 stacks up, he is going to be more than okay. So this fight looking to be quite secure, even if it is a little bit slower because he doesn't have quite as many temper buffs. Oh, or you can just get a huge crit.
That'll do. Now, is he gonna... I'm assuming he's gonna wait till the next room to get his black mages back up. Can't bring life 2 with the chaos. So, it's gonna be the long haul. Again, we haven't too much nasty stuff.
Here we go, pulling chaos, doing his final preparations, bringing up a meat shield as that very low level black mage is, but we'll get off a few nukes and moving the fighter down to the 2nd slot. I like this. He can survive a punch with the armor he's at. So going to be going with defensive strats. Ruse, White Shirt, these are all very standard on these types of clan bosses. This Chaos can have 3000 HP, so speed and powering through it is not necessarily going to be possible. Ruse gets off good turnover, Fire 3 fantastic, doing very little damage to the ribbon carries, and those are the 2 most important characters at this moment. Those 2 characters in the middle of your screen is that red mage can cast fast, can cast temper, and the black mage already off. Power bonk going off. This fighter is going to be hitting for, I would guess, around 1000 damage next turn. Rub goes off, not going to do anything through the ribbon. 3 out of 256 could be very bad news, though. And here we go. Fighter swing coming out. Swing 745, so not quite 1000, but that's going to definitely do enough. And this chaos is not going to be long for this world. This is looking like a very safe finish for Aelmark, and even a nuke here, not going to take him out. But it could make things a little precarious, as not a lot of curative magic. Nukes continue to go out. And here we go. Hold your breath. This chaos, not long for the world, does punch fairly hard, but
Black Mage gets back road once again. Yeah, definitely seems like this chaos is on the high end of 3600 max damage, or max HP. Aelmarkin, I think, took a really good strategy for this fight. Let's see if it pays off here. Doing a little bit less damage. Got 360 on that. Still nuking away, We got nuke, fight. And I missed what he did. And sure enough, like that, that's a GG for Aelmarkin. Well done, and extremely well-run seed from start to finish. Took a number of very smart decisions. It's hard to find much fault with what Aelmarkin was doing there. Yeah, that was a great party comp, and he made the most of it.
Showing why he's the one teaching these ducks how to play. Yeah. Because he just put on an absolute clinic. I really like the party he ran. Actually, that's a little bit of spoilers, but pretty much the exact same party that I'm planning on running for this exact flag set. I think Fighter, Black Mage, Red Mage, a really solid choice, as the double Black Mage gives you kind of the runaway ability of a thief, while also providing you all the extra magic that you need to get through Temple of Fiends quickly. Speed and power strats do the trick with this clamp most of the time, except on Chaos, and in that case you do have a guaranteed defense in the incentive pool to get you through. And we will see if Aelmarkin will be joining us for interviews, and it looks like he will, so he will be joining us shortly in the booth to kind of, break down this first place run, as Aelmarkin finished in first place overall, first on the stream, first overall, with an official SRL time of 1 hour, 5 minutes, and 16 seconds. So congratulations to Aelmarkin on winning this second post-spring tournament weekly race.
Yeah, and I think you bring up a good point about his party comp too. My favorite party comp, bar none, is the Fighter Rainbow. You got Fighter, red, black, white. I think the more comfortable that you get with this game, the more likely you are to drop that white mage in favor of another black or another red, depending on how you're feeling. There is always, of course, the risk that you're going to get locked out of a white magic spell that you really need. There is a chance that you're not going to have any life spells. There is a chance that you miss out on Cure 4 or Heal 3 or something important. However, in seeds like this, where, even clamped 100 to 180 on the boss scaling, that's not so high that you can't just brute force your way around it. And so I think that's one of those things that you see ducks develop over time, is just that level of comfort with the game that allows them to drop the healing, allows them to drop the white mage and just go for it. And as we say that, our second runner on stream in the Temple of Fiends Revisited is Foolish Feline, hopping in at just about 1 hour 7 minutes. Extremely fast time too, considering Elmarkin's time. So different party comp here. Obviously, you've got the black belt up front, but that black belt has got a ton of health. And as long as you put in the work with black belts beforehand, man, those things are gonna wreck shop running through those solo fiends.
Yeah, no, for sure. So I don't think the black belt's quite high. What level is the black belt? Did you see? He's got a decent amount of HP, but I don't know if he has the extra hits he needs. The black belt has critical breakpoints at 32 and 42. So even being 2 levels below can significantly decrease his damage output. So hopefully, 33. 33, yeah. Foolish Feline is in good shape. Sorry,
No, it was good. I thought he was at 31, but it turns out just the red mage was at 31. So yeah, I'm glad you brought 32 is that sweet spot. Got him up there.
So this Temple of Fiends Revisited shouldn't cause any problems, and if anything, this black belt doesn't even need to, spend a turn power bonking. He can basically swing turn 1 with his inherent crit rate, as well as just a simple fast charge should get him through a lot of these fiends. We'll have to see though. The thing with Temple of Fiends Revisited is sometimes you can just get luck, like we mentioned Thunder showing up in one of the other fiends, like the first fiends. Same thing can happen here. Sometimes fiends punch, sometimes fiends do turn 1 nuke, and that's just randoing. So keep your eyes peeled. And we are joined in the booth by Ale Markin. GG's Ale.
Hey, man.
Hey, GG, welcome to the booth.
Hey, thanks, Rocky. Good to be here.
So congratulations on your first place overall finish, really showing why you are the one teaching the ducks how to play these seeds. Any kind of initial comments before we kind of hop over to watch one of our ducklings, Foolish Feline, in the Temple of Fiends?
I mean, just something we talked about back during some of the reveal streams is just play the seed, don't let the seed play you. So like with this seed, we found both loose pretty early. Temple of Fiends and Matoya, so after that, you knew all your progression was going to come from your key items and all that good stuff. So it's just kind of digging those and finding your progression and hitting as many chests as you can. So
yeah, I think a critical thing that differentiated your time from some of the other runners is that you managed to just single dip everything. So you didn't double dip dwarves, you didn't double dip sky, as tempting as it was to go there early. And when you went somewhere, you opened the boxes, cleared it out, and just got the shards you required. Was that kind of something you were consciously doing, or was that something that just kind of happened naturally?
It was something I'd like to do if I can go somewhere. Like, the way I kind of approach the game is I kind of break it up into quadrants. So if I can clear out one quadrant and never go back there, happier I'll be. So I kind of look at it like that with, doing Sky. Like, it didn't kind of pan out for me today because we still had to go back and get the slab canoe. But, if I'm going to go in somewhere, I'm not going to go in like, oh, I found the chime, let me go in and see what's in the boxes in Mirage, then have to come back later once I find the cube. Like, all that back and forth, you're losing time between routing and encounters and double dipping, like you mentioned. Something I try to do. Sometimes the seed lets me do it. Other times the seed just rolls something nasty on like mobs with skills and spells and says, nope, try again. So I kind of lucked out tonight a little bit.
Yeah. Now, I do want to point out DVS, our other duck on stream, also in Temple of Fiends on Lich 2 floor. Meanwhile, Foolish Feline just about to take on the fight with Kraken, making extremely quick work of the Temple of Fiends. I'm sort of curious, when you were headed to the Water Shrine, I predicted that you were going to go Mermaids, Kraken, and then Waterfall if you needed it. You did the exact opposite of that. Can you talk a little bit about what your decision-making was like for that?
So when I was going in there, and I parked there at the canoe, and, I did the house, I'm like, okay, well, I know the only 2 places left for me with incentives, unless I was missing something, was going to be Waterfall and Ordeals. And I think the only other 2 things I was missing were the Power Bonk and the Defense Sword. I was really hoping Waterfall was going to be Bonk just because I forgot where lock spells were, and I kind of missed seeing fast at level 1 until
okay.
So I was kind of hoping that Bonk was going to be there, and just in case I just had to spend a couple rounds like buffing up the fighter in order to kind of offset that -5 on the Masa. Also, in a couple of these other seeds that I've run, going into Waterfall, sometimes it's really loaded with, slices or wedges or digses or whatever you have. I think one of them I did had like 4 chests, had all of them in there. So I was really hoping it's a pretty quick check, and with Warp you get in and out and you're done. So I was hoping to find a couple slices in there. It didn't pan out. And then kind of the same thoughts for going Kraken first. I think I only needed 9 by the time I was going into C Shrine, so I was hoping to find 5 on the way. Just like maybe left side C was really loaded.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I got 4 and then, the one for Mermaids, so.
Yeah, I think Kraken first before Mermaids makes a lot of sense once you were at that kind of threshold where maybe if I get lucky I get enough shards on left side before going right, especially if you've already gone to Waterfall first, so that made a lot more sense. But the fact that you were prioritizing the power bonk more than checking it for shards kind of clarifies why you went Waterfall first, because I was predicting that you would feel ready for Temple of Fiends Revisited without bonk, considering you had Ruse on your knight, you had fast, temper, kind of everything you wanted. But if you didn't realize immediately that you had fast, and you didn't know where lock was, that makes so much more sense in terms of just being hey, I don't feel fully ready, power bonk's going to solidify it. But let's quickly turn over to our 2 ducks here, as we have dueling fiend fights. DVS taking on Carry. Meanwhile, Foolish Feline survived a very, very close fight with Waters and just took down Kraken too.
Oh, buddy. An 800 damage punch. He was in a bit of a precarious position there. His red mage got hit in the second spot. All it would have taken was one bad shot on the white mage, and this would have been a totally different Topher for Foolish Feline, giving DVS a chance to catch up. And DVS is not far behind at all, depending on how the random encounters go, and depending on how this Tiamat fight goes. DVS could very well catch up. Now, you would think with the black belt, you're gonna hit hard, so let's see how this goes. This has gotten real close and very exciting.
Yeah, for sure. Foolish Feline, okay, he does move it around a little bit. I hope it's not leaving the white mage. Ooh, leaving both his life casters in the first 2 slots, a little bit risky, but probably hoping that he can get through quick enough that it doesn't cause any difficulties. But I would be a little bit scared about this and probably be moving my black mage to that second slot instead. Here we go, though. First punch goes off, 15 hits. Ridiculous amount of damage. Meanwhile, on DVS sides, his fighter was in the first slot. This was also extremely dangerous, and resorting to Brack strats, as that fighter's down to 6 HP. This is not looking good for DVS. Paying a little bit of a price for keeping that fighter up top, as that is his primary way out, and he's resorting to nothing but Brack strats, as he got stunned as well. Not looking good for our duck on the bottom left. Tiamat, meanwhile, though, not causing any issues at all for Foolish Feline. Yes, Tia may have a few more turns in him, but this black belt, punching hard, perfectly healthy. Running out of nukes, not a big concern, as DVS does unfortunately wipe out.
Yeah, that's a tough lesson to learn. I think sometimes you think, okay, I'm well armored, I think my fighter can handle it, but just a couple bad turns like that. And interestingly, I think DVS doesn't need to leave here. I definitely get, going back for this, I think it's the red D tile that's over here on the earth, getting a few more levels and just being safe. But I think just a little bit, different party management might be the only issue to be solved at this point.
Yeah.
But the comfort level is there, and, this shouldn't take too long, and then go hop back in and shot.
I'm a big proponent for, run it again as long as you feel like it wasn't if you made a strategic error, or if you just feel like you're, got a little bit unlucky or not sure if you got unlucky, run it back one more time and then make the adjustment. And in this case, I think the adjustment wasn't necessarily that he just needed more levels, it was just that he needed to change his party order up for Kraken, get a little bit luckier to not get stunned, and because that was stun touch as well. And then just get fast and temper and go kill Kraken.
Yeah.
As Kraken doesn't have so much HP that you can't just speed and power him down. Foolish Feline, though, onto Chaos. Let's see what strats are going on here. So one thing he's doing here is, because he does not have a knight, he's casting Invis on his black belt. Unfortunately, he should have Invis 2 available just to increase the survivability of the rest of his party. So Invis 2 would be a nice adjustment here. But at the end of the day, it's not the end of the world. Most important thing is getting fast and maybe one temper off, as well as these Invis onto that black belt, and this Chaos should not cause any problems. Chaos does come out with a nuclear, though. I don't know if we saw that on AO's side.
Yeah, that's exactly what we're talking about. Now, luckily, that black belt did have plenty of HP. I think there's probably a good chance that, barring anything else really nasty, Feeline's probably going to get through this without seeing that again. But, yeah, that's exactly the kind of thing you worry about when you don't see it beforehand.
Another thing of note right now is that this Chaos is very evasive, as that black belt should be hitting 16 times and only hitting 10, so another thing that could be a good adjustment is buying lock spells in advance and making sure you cast them, as the nukes that he's casting is doing some damage, but if this was a more dangerous flag set, this Chaos could have completely punished this party already. So focus on your primary damage dealer, realize nukes that are only doing 2 damage in each, or 200 damage in each punch of this black belt's doing 100, so cast those locks, get the fasts off early, and kill Chaos. But Foolish Feline gets through no problem, and we have a Duck coming in second place.
Yeah,
Foolish
well done.
Feline, someone
Very
who
well done.
quote-unquote a long-time casual Final Fantasy 1 player who's been playing for just over a year casually, coming in second with an official SRL time of 1 hour and 17 minutes and 22 seconds. Any comments for, your Duck in training, Ale?
I mean, it's a well-run, granted, I only got a solid part of his Topher run. But from watching everything in Topher, I mean, we did the right thing. I don't know what level his Black Belt got up to, but it's interesting seeing two of the on-screen runners between Foolish Feline and Will Bloodworth running Black Belt strats, while DVS and myself ran Knight. Because I think the biggest thing is, when you're running these particular flags, like the 2.5 plus, or the 2.5x plus whatever EXP, along with the scaling for key items, it can really favor a Black Belt in flags where you have to sit there and you're doing a shardant where you're opening up a lot of boxes. But it kind of tips in the favor back of Fighter because for the same reason, you're opening up a lot of boxes. So it helps a Black Belt because you're sitting there and you're being able to check more trap tiles if you want to go that route. You're more likely to find more of the gear, so maybe if you do have to promote early, you can at least gear up the Black Belt to offset it a little bit. It's one of those tough choices. I think Black Belt's kind of the safer choice because you're not so heavily impacted by like the blursing of the weapons. Like Moss and -5 was kind of sad to see. The same actually for Vorpal was -2.
Yeah.
Yeah, those are all really good points. And we were kind of debating, Black Belt versus Fighter strategies. I think it really does come down to what you're saying. I think Fighters will be the fastest, but Black Belts will be the safest, and it really depends on how the seed rolls and, just your general play style for that. But as we saw, first and second place, one running a Fighter, one running a Black Belt, so kind of all parties on the table here. As DVS dives Temple of Fiends Revisit for a second time, meanwhile, Will Bloodworth kind of finishing up the remainder of his shards now that his Black Belt is fully ground up and ready to rumble. And we will have Foolish Feline joining us for an interview as he joins the broadcast booth now. Foolish Feline, GG's.
GG.
Oh, we have some mic activity, but we can't hear you at the moment.
Oh, I'm sorry. I think I had my mic volume turned.
There we go. Welcome, yeah. Congratulations on a very strong second place finish.
Thank you.
How are you
Backseat
feeling having
run.
completed that?
I'm feeling pretty good. I had a bit of indecisiveness there. I wasn't sure if I wanted to Dan my red mage or white mage there for a while. Kind of went back and forth on that.
So, Ale, what would you think in this seed, if you had a white mage or a red mage to Dan? What are the thoughts going through your head, and what maybe could you offer as considerations?
So, if you had to choose between a white and a red, I think with this particular seed, I'd probably feel safer danning off the white mage, and then running something like, I believe it was Black Belt, Red Black would be the other characters there. Just because at level 2 you still had Life 2, you had Invis 2, so you had the big spells there. The biggest thing missing really from White Magic, I never saw it at least, was I think Fade, so you really don't have like that high-powered offensive spell for like the White Magic to be up and kind of be like one of the DPS carries necessarily. Whereas we had Nuke at level 2, so between those three spells, yeah, you hate to see them all in the same tier, but I think that gives so much versatility to the Red Mage. I think banning off the White Mage was like the right call.
Yeah, that's the decision I made in the end.
Yeah, I think a lot of the time, if the white mage has Fade, you can almost always just lean towards not danning off the white mage, but if it doesn't, you really have to decide if the white mage lock spells are worth it. So kind of more generally applicable is there a white spell that you feel like you can't live without? If yes, then sure, you can dan the red mage instead, but if no, does the white mage have Fade? If the white mage has Fade, there's a pretty good chance you might just want to keep the white mage up anyways.
Yeah.
But if the answer is no to that, then the white mage, pretty easy to make that decision there. But meanwhile, let's quickly turn, before we get into this interview, DVS has entered the Temple of Fiends Revisited alongside Will Bloodworth, so while we conduct this interview, keep your eyes peeled on the two left-hand runners.
We did also have a third place finish in Psytown, coming in just a minute after Foolish Feline. A very close run on that one as well. So GG to Psytown. I can't remember if we'd already said that yet.
Oh yeah, no, we hadn't. So yeah, Groggy Dog, do you have any other questions kind of for Foolish Feline as our other last two runners are wrapping things up here?
Yeah, so I think one thing I'd love to hear from you, Foolish, is, like, obviously you're a little bit newer to this game. What sort of things are going through your mind when you get an airship as early as you did this seed? We talked a little bit about analysis paralysis, and I think you managed to avoid that. You made some very decisive actions, and they paid off for you pretty quickly. So what sort of criteria are you looking at in terms of picking where to go once you're in the air?
Well, first thing I'm thinking about is where the incentive items are, especially if I'm still missing go mode items. And then after that, it's mostly proximity, like where am I close to and what do I have the stats to take on.
I mean, I think that is, great advice. Just what can I take on? Where do I potentially need to go? And that's a nice.
To the point.
Yeah, there's not much else to say.
Yeah.
Ale said very similar things, though perhaps for a more experienced runner, the fact that they're incentivized is kind of just so internalized that you don't really think about it. You just kind of are automatically filtering things that aren't internalized or not incentivized. But as you pointed out, filter incentivized and then do proximity, and that's just really solid advice for kind of how to approach a wide open seat like a 17-minute airship.
Yeah. Is there anything looking back, Feline, that you wish you would have done differently or done in a different order?
I wish I had danned off a couple characters earlier and taken that Red Ochu grind in the volcano and really rode that out a little longer. I think the level boost would have sped me up a bit overall.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's an interesting. That's not a typical grind, but listen, if it works for you, it works. And I remember seeing that one and saying, like, oh, I was surprised by how much XP is getting off that one.
Mm-hmm. And there's a very common saying, too, which is early levels are worth more than late levels, as the early levels both can make things a lot safer as well as a lot faster. Even though, people can kind of be thrown off the scent with the incremental experience gain from key items, but in this case, it's relatively small and those levels can make things a lot safer. You had a few close encounters of the war mech kind, Foolish Feline. Do you want to kind of talk through what was going on in your head there?
I mean, I could explain what I was thinking in my head, but it's just the letter A in all caps, like 1,000 times in a row.
Yeah, that
Bridge of Destiny was really giving me the business.
That whole stretch was real scary. I was definitely on the edge of my seat for you. You had the near miss war mech, the second war mech on vanilla percentage, and then a very scary Tiamat fight. I think probably the scariest Tiamat fight we had on stream. That thunder very nearly reset you out of the Sky Shrine, but you made it through. What were you sort of thinking during that fight?
I was regretting not taking the Masa off the black belt. I think I had the power at that point to just punch Tia, and that would have been better. I could have stuck the Masa on the red mage. Really, it's just very physical resistant, very hard to get damage through, especially since I burned through so many nukes getting up there. And I just had to sort of chip away and hope for the best.
Yeah. No, then, you know what? Sometimes you have to... There's a saying, prepare well, but then there's another one, which is that, you have to make do with what you're given. And at that point, you had burned the resources, so you just had to punch away, get through, and you know what? You chose the right path, and if you get through in the end, that's ultimately what counts in the randomizer at this point. So, I do want to point out, we do have our 4th place finisher, Mundungo Goo, with a time of 1 hour, 26 minutes, and 11 seconds, so congratulations to them.
Yeah, GG.
And meanwhile, on stream right now, we have Will Bloodworth taking on the second to last Fiend. We do know that Tia does punch pretty hard and decides to back row his black mage, or his black belt immediately. Meanwhile, DVS about to take on Kraken 2, our 4th runner, to do this. And last time caused a little bit of problems. I hope he makes the fighter adjustment this time. Because the big risk with this party right now is just the fighter getting punched out. That's really the only thing that is going to cause major issues. I mean, Lifecaster getting punched out, a little bit problematic, but fighter is going to be the big one. So...
Yeah, it's interesting. I think the calculus has changed just a little bit if... Oh, no, okay, no, Red Mage is still up, never mind, ignore me. Hopefully gonna switch, we'll see here in just a second, yeah. Now, while we're pulling, Ale and Foolish, as we said earlier, we are days away from the next installment of Nuclear off of Tiamat 2. Here's one of the other ones. Will Bloodworth is on 8 HP, and a second Nuclear comes out. The only runner who saw one Nuclear from Tiamat 2 saw the other Nuclear from Tiamat 2. That was devastating to watch. Will Bloodworth taking a second to think about his life. That was a rough one.
Meanwhile, DVS makes full adjustments, and I really, really like this full adjustment here. He both moved the fighter to the back row, cast turn 1 ruse, as well as white shirts. So he's setting himself up for kind of the best possible Kraken fight here. Now, unfortunately for him, his red mage got punched right away, and I think that was a major risk, putting the red mage in the second slot instead of the third, as he does have only a single life caster. But you know, that is just a little bit unlucky as well, as there was only a 25% chance of his life caster getting punched out, but this means that every character goes down is going to be down permanently. But we do know that Chaos...
No, he's got life 2 on the Promoted Knight.
Oh, never mind. Okay, ignore everything I just said.
Yeah.
I did not see anyone else cast life on their knight, but I guess they just didn't have to.
So while we've got a second, the question I was gonna ask before I was shocked into complacency. AO Foolish Feline, we are days away from the next installment of the Duck Derby, starting up this Friday night, July 3rd at 9 p.m. Eastern. AO, you will not be running in the Duck Derby, but you're hoping to put it on. How are y'all feeling about it? What are you looking forward to from the next 2 weeks of Duck on Duck action?
I mean, I don't know about you guys, but I think we've got 29 ducks that are signed up currently, and assuming everybody competes, this is going to be just utter, complete chaos, and I just can't wait to see it. Like, it's... With that many people, I don't think there's really going to be any way to really call, like, a clear, concise leader until probably after the 4th race is going to be over, you know, next weekend. So, it's going to be a lot of fun. I hope everybody, if you aren't planning on running in it, if you're not a duck, I think you should still come out and watch, and, you know, because we're hoping to do a couple different restreams for each race, I believe. Hopefully we can get a good number of people. I believe the goal is the same as it was back in January with the last one. We want everybody to be on stream at least once. So hopefully everybody gets their moment in the spotlight. This will be a lot of kind of spinning plates, and I think it's going to be a lot of chaos and a lot of fun.
Awesome. So, DVS getting through that harrowing Kraken fight, and actually I completely agree with his decision now to move the red mage in the second slot with life on his fighter knight. So yeah, DVS making all the plays here, taking on Kraken. Tia, his first shot at it, but things are looking so far so good. Still going for black strats. Those are only 6% and perhaps necessary in very, very, very difficult scaling. But at this point, fasts and tempers on the knight will get the job done quicker and more consistently.
1176 out of that knight, yeah. That's all you need. Even with this high rolling chaos, that's a third of Chaos's health if you hit like that. So the benefit of that grind, again, I think we can talk about whether or not that was necessary for DVS to do, but certainly it has put him in a position where this should not, fingers crossed, knock on wood, present too much of an issue for him.
Good, I like this kind of ingrained play. Check your items, check your ribbons, make sure everything's in the right spot.
Yeah, smart.
And then make sure you're fully prepared.
GG to Rube000, who has finished off screen with 5th place with a time of 1:31.18. GG Rubes000, well done, another duck run.
And here we go, DVS taking on Chaos, starting off with defensive strats. Unfortunately, out of ruse on the knight, so a little bit unfortunate there as he did have limited casts, but the white shirts should be enough as long as he gets, enough casts off here. Now, one big concern is the fact that his red mage was down and his fighter was out of life charges, so a little bit unfortunate there, and that really comes down to his fighter only having 2 charges, his knight only having 2 charges because of the later promotion. But looks like this Chaos so far being fairly nice, getting those invis and white shirt charges off that he needs.
Looks like we have peer pressured our restreamer MathGirl718, who is just an absolute staple in the Randomizer community. Thank you again to MathGirl for the restream. Looks like she has signed up for the Duck Derby, so we are now at 30 participants. It's going to be a barn burner. It's going to be so much fun.
Yeah, and as we mentioned before, there's no, being eliminated. There's no dropping out. This is really about learning, about playing, about racing, and having fun with your fellow ducks. So
Yeah.
we encourage anyone to join, even if it's last minute, even if you think you're going to do terrible, because you know what? You're going to get some great veterans helping you out. You're going to get other ducks commiserating or congratulating you, and those are all really great times and just good ways to build community, especially in, sometimes difficult times.
Yeah, another thing it does too, I don't mean to jump in on you guys during this commentary,
Please.
but when you're doing like a duckling seed and you're just sitting there by yourself, zoned in, doing all your own tracking, you're just kind of racing yourself in your mind, it's a different experience than it is knowing that you're in a room of 90-something people, 30-something people, and you're just like in the back here, like, what's everyone else doing?
Yeah. Quick pause. DVS had a very scary ending to that Chaos fight. But with an official SRL time of 1:33:05, comes in a strong 6th place. Well done to DVS. GG. Very scary ending there, but clutched it out, so way to go.
Yeah, and I completely agree with your point, Ao. Like, I was running the randomizer kind of casually, got involved with the spring tournament, helping out on race crew a little bit, but it was really the weekly races, the Duck Derby events that made me want to play more, because, like, when you can complain about chaos with other people, there's nothing better. If you're going to say that Kraken was so miserable, how many people forfeited, etc., like, that's just, it's fun, and it's nice to be part of that, and that's what the Duck Derby really allows you to do, at its fullest with 30 runners or 29 other runners. So yeah, we highly encourage everyone to come out, as DVS will be joining us shortly for an interview, as Will Bloodworth is past kind of the major gatekeeper of this run between it and Chaos, Kraken, and onto Tiamat. And we are joined in the booth by DVS, who is currently muted. GG, DVS.
Thanks for the heads up. Thanks.
So, maybe we'll just touch on we're about to see another the final Chaos poll on stream, but let's just quickly touch on kind of two key things. One, how nervous were you about wiping to Chaos at the end there?
Like, yeah, it was sweating. Like, he wasn't throwing anything out. Then all of a sudden, nuclear swirl, all in rapid succession. Yeah, it was way too close for me.
And then kind of the other key decision point that we were talking about a little bit on your stream is kind of what was the decision there to decide to go back and grind versus diving a second time? Because you made the strategic adjustment that you definitely needed to by moving your fighter around, but why did you decide to go grind instead of just kind of diving back in and saying, I'll get luckier / make a strategic adjustment?
Well, I think you hit it right there. It's get lucky or make a strategic adjustment. Because I think, like, I did do that pre-dive. So, like, I did the first dive, I wiped, decided, like, you saw me pause for a bit, decided to go get some levels, dove down the first 2 layers and went, oh, shoot, I have a knight, I forgot to get white magic. And with Life 2, Cure 3, and I think Invis and
Ruse
were in there. It was one of those, like, okay, I could chance another dive, and if my red mage goes down, I'm done, which with Kraken 2, that was pretty likely. I decided to bounce out, pick up some magic, do the second dive. Sure enough, red mage goes down against Kraken, I think. Yeah, I think if I hadn't done those adjustments, I would have had at least 2 or 3 more dives. Just pray for RNG.
Okay, yeah, good point. And that's a great answer. We'll quickly turn our attention back to the stream. We want to make sure we give everyone our good, Chaos send-off, as Will Bloodworth is pulling Chaos. Groggy Dog, you want to take this one?
I would love to. So we have... Using the Ice Sword for a second, I thought we're going to cast that Invis, the level 1, and fast on the Black Belt, and he's going to go in for 136. Not quite what you want to see just yet. We're going to have another Invis, another Temper coming out. And we're going to have the Black Belt punch for 1058. Now, that is exactly the kind of damage that Will Bloodworth wanted to see. And it looks like Will Bloodworth is dunned and immediately dropped his stream. GG. Oh no, we're back. Okay. Spoilers.
There we go.
There it is. 7th place for the time of 1:37:16. I was so confused. Commenting, let's forget this ever happened. GG to Will Bloodworth taking the unpromoted party into the Temple of Fiends and slaying Chaos. Well done. The on-stream cap to an extremely entertaining race by all 4 runners.
Yeah, and this flag set, Will Bloodworth, an extremely experienced runner, specializing in extremely difficult flag sets. And in this case, you know what? Sometimes the flag set's just too easy for you. And Will Bloodworth joining us in the booth. Let's forget this ever happened. How's it going, Will?
Oh wow! What?
You were the only one to see 1 nuclear on Tiamat, which means that you were also the only one to see 2 nuclears on Tiamat. How does that feel?
It felt bad, man. It felt
bet.
really bad.
Yeah, I bet.
Everything about this race felt bad.
Yeah, it was just like so many little things that could add up to be a struggle bus. We were talking about, sort of the big brain sky play, but you having to pull out and go back must have felt pretty frustrating.
Yeah, I was just trying to find some early stuff. Felt pretty smart when I got the ribbon.
Yeah.
I was looking for a grind tile the whole time. I'm like, well, nachos, iron gall, no. And I just settled on the fires.
Yeah.
I needed something. And then even with a 32 black belt, nothing was a sure thing because I was hitting for... I was getting trash damage on so many hits. If you saw my first and second dives, it was just terrible. I don't know what happened. Like everything was going wrong this race, and
Well, when you win the
maybe I was
hardcore
doomed.
by an hour, sometimes Rando's going to Rando the other way in other situations.
It's like I guess I was due a whole bunch of bad luck all at once.
I mean, listen,
chaos and yeah.
I forfeited out of the final boss last week, so sometimes it's just not your race, and that's totally okay. I think you showed a lot of resilience and resolve, even just in terms of having the slightly off kilter party with the black belt and the thief. That it's gonna take a bad day and make it a little bit worse, but props to you for sticking through it.
Thanks.
Yeah,
I'm never gonna quit. Just sucked.
Oh, that's nice. I quit all the time.
No,
We do not have a forfeit on our 4 restream runners, so congratulations to all 4 of you. So I think we're just going to kind of wrap things up here a little bit. We'll quickly just pass it around to all 4 runners. I would love to give Ale and Groggy, kind of, our Duckling Supreme and one of the key organizers of the Duckling Derby, a chance to kind of plug that one last time and maybe just hear some, final thoughts for everyone else. So why don't we start over with Foolish Feline, who came second place and made people want, a little bit scared. You're breathing down their backs, and by theirs, I mean my back. Any thoughts, Foolish Feline?
Well, like you said, I'm still new to the community. Final Fantasy has been one of my favorite games for a very long time, and I've been enjoying the Randomizer tremendously, and I'm looking forward to running many more seeds with you all in the future.
I'm also as well, and anytime, we do pick up races all the time, and I'm sure we'll get in one soon. Speaking of doing pickup races all the time, DVS, someone who I have raced against numerous times, any final thoughts?
Make sure you practice your flag sets before the Duck Derby if you're participating, because especially track 1 on Friday and track 2, which is what we just ran a few minutes ago, are completely different with completely different strategies and completely different ways of playing. So I would say the first 20-30 minutes of my run were just disgusting because I kept forgetting things or going in the wrong places, or I even told myself before the race began that if you find a floater, you don't need the canoe, and I think I forgot that I told myself that for a while. If you're stuck on one flag set forever, don't do that to yourself. Use them around, practice. That was my takeaway.
Awesome. Yeah, that's some great advice. Moving over to Will Bloodworth, anything you want to say, or you already passed this and on to the next seed?
Well, yeah, like this, I think I need to leave these kinds of flag sets, these faster races, to people who run faster races better. This is definitely not my game here. GG to everybody who finished. Foolish Feline really impressed me with that second place finish, being so brand new. Side Town showing up, doing well. Mundungu, who I haven't seen a lot, and Rubes, who I also haven't seen a lot, finishing ahead of me. GD to you both. No hard feelings there. But yeah, it does feel bad knowing how to play this game and then doing what I just did, laying a big goose egg. So I hope I defend my hardcore title better than I played this race.
Oh, trust me, if we know that, Will on super fast flag sets, we're like, okay, that's someone a bet we maybe can beat. Will on hardcore flag sets, no one's saying that. So we all know your power.
Yeah, I think you've got plenty of reputational cash left over. Just fine, Will.
It would seem so.
Solo thief blind flag sets incoming. Everyone's gonna finish an hour later. And with that, I do want to pass it over to kind of combo Ale and Groggy Dog to kind of wrap things up here. As I think the thing that we want to finish things off here with is the Duck Derby. Maybe we'll start with Ale, and then Groggy can wrap things up. Ale, anything you want to say about kind of obviously your fantastic first place finish, but also just the Duck Derby coming up that hasn't already been said?
I mean, probably not that hasn't been said, but just kind of echoing what DDS and them were saying. Just pay attention to your flags when you're going in. It's something we talk about every week when we're doing the weekly reveals. Just be familiar with what flags you're racing. Know where your incentive locations are. Maybe throw them up on like a notepad next to your screen, or jot them down on a notepad next to you on your desk. However you want to play the game. But just kind of be aware of like what your minimum requirements are for each seed. Your minimum requirements for like a shard hunt are going to be different than they're going to be for one where you've got to light all the orbs necessarily. Like one, you may not need to open a lot of chests, but for shard hunt you will. So just kind of plan accordingly. Aside from that, I mean, that's really the biggest thing. Just look at your seed. Get some practice in if you want to. Go back and watch these other weekly races, because I believe this is the second of 3 now. That's going to have at least the duckling flags as part of the weekly race. I think our Thursday race is going to have another week as well, and I think we're going to squeeze one more in next week before the second half of the duckling derby. So go back and watch how other runners are approaching the seeds, and maybe see if you can take something away from what they've done.
And Groggy Dog, want to take us away, Mr. Duckling Supreme himself?
I'd be happy to. This is one of my favorite things in the world. I flamed out of one Duck Derby and came in dead last. I was 11 people raced and 10 people went on to day 2 back before we were doing Mario Kart, and I was the 11th finisher in that particular race. And then I came back in the January Duck Derby and won it all. Don't give up. Keep trying. This is a great game for everybody. There are a lot of really amazing resources out there for you. We love beginners. We love the ducks. This is a super great community. So no matter if you are scared or nervous or think you maybe aren't able to, whatever it is, you have a very welcome home here at the Final Fantasy Randomizer community. We'd be happy to have you, so stop by the Discord. And with that, I think we can go ahead and close this out, send this off. Big thank you, as always, to the Randomania family. They are always so very good to the Final Fantasy Randomizer family. GG's to Will Bloodworth, Ale Markin, DVS, and Foolish Feline, who put on a really great show for us tonight. Thank you to Math Girl, who we peer pressured into signing up for the Duck Derby while she was restreaming this race for us. Thank you to Magus, who is tracking. And of course, thank you to my co-commentator, Jat, who is a duck himself, but is already an extremely knowledgeable and very competent commentator. And it was a pleasure to cast with you.
Thank you very much. And with that, I hope everyone has a fantastic night. Thanks again.